Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Boris Johnson is formally entering the Tory leadership race today, and he's with me in the studio. I joke, of course. He hasn't done a single broadcast interview since Theresa May announced her departure. He does, however, have some pretty senior supporters who are happy to speak on his behalf. One of them is the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, Liz Truss. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's he got to hide?
He's got nothing to hide. He's been out and about doing hustings with Conservative MPs throughout the last week. This is the parliamentary stage of the process. The important thing is he's talking to parliamentary colleagues, and today he'll be doing his launch. He'll be answering questions from the media. But I don't need to tell you, John, that we've only just started this process. There's going to be another 6 weeks or so of scrutiny of all of the candidates, and I think that's the right thing.
Michael Gove, you might have heard him say at this time we need someone who's been tested in the heat of battle, someone who's prepared to go under the studio arc lights to make the case, not hide in their bunker. Matt Hancock said everybody should participate in debates. We have to ask the question of why not. There is a lot of concern that Mr. Johnson hasn't been prepared to do a live broadcast interview.
Well, you won't have to wait very long, because later today he will be answering questions from the media.
That's different. It's not a live broadcast interview, is it? You know, a one-on-one.
I'm sure there'll be lots of those, John.
Well, is it? Let me suggest to you that it is perhaps because there are so many questions being raised about...
Go ahead, ask me the questions.
I will ask you the questions. They have to do with his integrity, whether he is a fit and proper person to be Prime Minister. Nigel Rudd, the chairman of Meggitt, the engineering group, you'll know him, former chair of Heathrow Airport and Boots, described him in the Financial Times this morning as someone who possesses not the slightest moral compass.
Well, I completely disagree with that. I think Boris is a fantastic person who will make a great leader for our country. And I think we need change. We need something new. We've been for 3 years in a Brexit deadlock. Boris was the leader of the Leave campaign. I think that he is the person who's going to take us over the line by the 31st of October. But what he is also is a positive, optimistic person who can help raise our country's sights, who can help other parts of Britain achieve more, grow faster, give more powers to their citizens, succeed in areas like education, help people keep more of their own money. We've launched policies on tax. We've launched policies on school funding.
Right.
And I think, Boris is the person to lead that charge.
Well, let me take you back to the question as to whether he is a fit and proper person to be Prime Minister, and quote to you, if I may, a little of what Matthew Parris wrote in the Times on Saturday. He's an habitual liar, a cheat, a conspirator with a criminal pal to have an offending journalist's ribs broken, a cruel betrayer of the women he seduces, a politician who connived in a bid for a court order to suppress mention of a daughter he fathered, a do-nothing mayor of London, and the worst foreign secretary in living memory. I can't think of any other politician running to be Prime Minister who's been attacked in a newspaper like The Times by a columnist like Matthew Parris in my record on this programme, my time on this programme.
I think it's a sign that he is being attacked. It shows the huge public appeal he has, the huge power he has to communicate. Absolutely.
Really?
If you
so
go
all
out and about with
who are
Boris,
very popular, and
if you go out and about with Boris, John, people will come up to him. They want to talk with him. They want to engage with him. And frankly, we need somebody who is a communicator, who can go out, who can get the Conservative message out, who is positive about free enterprise, positive about the future of this country.
But he has lied, Ms. Truss. This is the point. He has told lies. He was sacked by a former leader of your party from the front bench because he told lies about an affair that he had had and denied having.
You talked about his time as Mayor of London. That was
incredibly...
No, I'm
talking now about him lying about an affair for which the leader of your party sacked him from the front bench.
I do not think the British public are interested in Boris's personal life.
Really?
What they're interested in is who is going to deliver on Brexit.
No, I'm not talking about his... Sorry, you explained the Brexit thing a moment ago, and I'm not talking about his personal life. I'm talking about him lying in public about a pretty serious allegation for which his party leader sacked him. That's what I'm talking about. I wonder how you justify that.
Well, I think that he was a brilliant mayor of London. If you
You're
look at
not
the
answering the
Olympics,
question, are you?
Well, I'm answering the question 2 questions ago, which you haven't let me answer, which is what is his record?
No,
his
I didn't ask you
record
that
is
question.
as being the most successful mayor of London that we have had, of being an excellent foreign secretary who got countries around the world to take action against Russia by expelling their diplomats. And yes, there were issues in the past with, Michael Howard over his personal life. I mean, to me, that is not what the public's priority is here.
You talk about
we've got a massive opportunity to make something of our country as we leave the European Union. I think he is the person that can grasp that opportunity and run with it.
You
and
talk
part of the
about
reason he's getting so much flack is because there are people out there who don't want us to change. They don't want the Conservative Party to change. They think we can carry on doing what they're doing.
Right, so
they
his
are
record,
wrong.
right.
If we don't change, we will not survive.
So why in that case would somebody like Rory Stewart, who is a member of Parliament, running to be Prime Minister himself, of course, describing him as the person you might not want to write the instructions to the nuclear submarines that Britain has? In other words, his finger isn't safe on the nuclear button.
I mean, Rory, who is a good guy, a friend of mine, is another competitor in this leadership election.
And so
he
he's
is obviously
prepared to say
going to
something
cast
as outrageous as
aspersions
that, and you justify it simply by that? You don't suggest that you wouldn't accept that his record as Foreign Secretary was, let me say, mixed.
I think he had a very good record as Foreign Secretary. He was a brilliant mayor of London. The 2012 Olympics were a high for our country, where we showed what we can be like.
Secretaryship. And let me quote you what Sir Alan Duncan, his number 2 at the Foreign Office, said. He recounted this story to this programme. One foreign minister said to me, "Alan, what's it like to be Boris Johnson's pooper scooper?" And Sir Alan said, "Clearing up after him was quite a full-time activity." That's as Foreign Secretary.
John, there are people in the Conservative Party who don't like Boris Johnson.
Well,
I think they're generally people who don't want the Conservative Party to change. And I think we do need to change if we are to win the election, if we are to make our country more successful,
well, let me put
if we are to leave the European Union. Let's talk about the policies that Boris has laid out
just before
on tax, on education. Let's talk about the future.
But I was trying to use this interview, as you can tell, to discuss whether he's a fit and proper person. And instead of using quotes from other people, let's give you an example of what he did as Foreign Secretary, which had desperately serious consequences for Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe. You'll know her, the British woman who is in jail in Iran. She's got a small child. And he told Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson told the Foreign Affairs Committee she was simply teaching people journalism. That was simply not true. He hadn't done his homework. Her family, her employer have always maintained she was on holiday visiting her family. The Iranians were very happy to use that information from the Foreign Secretary to keep her in prison.
I think this is a complete misplacement of blame.
Really?
The people who are keeping
Sorry, what?
Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe in jail are the Iranians. This is a oppressive Iranian regime, and I think that it's apologists for that regime who are putting the blame on Boris Johnson.
Wasn't it irresponsible of him to say something that simply wasn't true? He hadn't done his homework.
The fact is that he did a brilliant job, in my opinion, as Foreign Secretary. I've talked about the Russia, the way that he united countries around the world to make sure that they expelled the Russian diplomats. And in the case that you've just mentioned, it is the Iranian regime who have held this innocent woman in jail. Let's put the blame where it is really deserved.
I thought about his fiscal responsibility, the way he's promising pretty well-off people big tax breaks.
The fact is that when the higher rate tax band was introduced in 1988, it was only 5% of people that were paying it. That amount has now tripled, and we're seeing people on incomes of £50,000, £60,000 dragged into the top rate of tax. Those are people like senior teachers, senior nurses, and those are not the super rich. What we're saying is people in that tax bracket, 50,000 to 80,000, shouldn't be paying higher rate tax, where for every additional pound they earn, they'd be paying more than half of their money over to the government. And we've already raised the basic rate threshold. So we've cut taxes for people on basic rate by £1,200. I think it's right that we reflect the fact that more people have been dragged into the higher rate. We move those people out, helps people to aspire, to get on in life and keep more of their own money and drive economic growth.
Liz Truss, many thanks.